Prince Harry and Meghan Markle chimed in on the U.S. election and essentially encouraged people to vote for Joe Biden. I want to get your reaction to that.
I'm not a fan of hers. And I would say this, and she probably has heard that, but I wish a lot of luck to Harry, because he's going to need it.
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat. That's right.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
He knew, you know?
There is nobody who's consistently had better pop culture takes than the former President Trump.
I mean, every time he nails it. It's a shame. The archive of his Twitter has so many solid takes that only age even better with time. But the one he had on Harry and Meghan, absolutely perfect.
So good. So good. Welcome, everybody, to this week's beginning episode here of the Ruthless Variety Program. We've got a huge week in front of us. We've got a very, very big guest this week. I'm not going to, should I leak? No. I'm
Nope. Make him wait.
I'm gonna make him wait, but suffice to say, everybody's going to be very impressed with what we've got going on.
So you know what we should check in on first is where are they now? The folks who we have been going after, essentially just folks we've sunk. We had that New York Times story that dropped yesterday about the Lincoln Project, who we'd been telling you folks, and we torpedoed them. And now they are essentially DOA. I mean, it's over for them.
It's big trouble. The New York Times story that Smug is referring to is entitled "Inside the Lincoln Project: Secrets, Side Deals, and Scandals."
Mm-hmm.
They've outlived their usefulness with the left when all of a sudden we are now in a situation where the New York Times is interested in the scandals of the Lincoln Project.
I mean, I'd been saying is so convenient. It's like right after election day, they're like, we're done with you, Lincoln Project. It's time to dump you overboard. You're full of scandals. You've got folks who are DMing young boys. You got to go now.
Yeah,
but they were okay with it until, when they needed them, because the New York Times, broke the news that all the folks there knew about Weaver's misdeeds since January of 2020.
Yeah, well, and I think what the big error here that has been further exposed by the New York Times, the only new thing that we've learned thus far is that two of the founding members, this Madrid and this Steslow character, got cut out of Steve Schmidt's deal at the end of the election when he was trying to put together another media company to play off of the Lincoln Project. And these two got pretty hot under the collar about it, and a rift ensued. And that, I think that was what ultimately began the downfall that sort of the Weaver thing and everything else spilled out of.
Yeah. You know what I like too is we had George Conway, Kellyanne's husband, noted Lincoln Project. What do we call him? Affiliate?
Yeah.
Involved with that, say that Lincoln Project should shut down absent full disclosure of its finances. As this detailed story shows, there's simply too much money that hasn't been accounted for, and I fear never will be. It's always funny how the rats try to scramble from the sinking ship, isn't it?
But the funny thing is it was all on FEC reports throughout, right?
Yeah, so I can't tell you the number of journalists who I was sending these FEC reports to of, wow, this is just like incredibly sketchy, these numbers that they're putting up. And I won't name names. I had one journalist specifically say my outlet would not be happy with me publishing something like this, which could be seen as hurting, Biden and coming off as helping Trump.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Straight up, they told me.
I knew they were in big trouble post-election when Steve Schmidt reached out to AOC to say we like waitresses. We routinely tip them 50%.
Isn't that something?
Like, what a scumbag. I knew immediately the libs were like, okay, we were comfortable for a while, but not any longer, fella.
It's really something. It says so much about the modern liberal movement, which is just like they believe in absolutely nothing. They just want to win elections. They have no core beliefs. And anyone who is useful up until election day, they welcome. It doesn't matter if it's like Hannibal Lecter. They're like, okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, we can work with you.
And the media was actively complicit in their scam.
Totally.
And we've mentioned it previously, but of course, I mean, MSNBC basically used the Lincoln Pact as an extension of its media empire as a super PAC arm. I mean, they had the Lincoln Project co-founders on dozens of times onto Morning Joe.
Well, they were contributors.
They were
all paid by MSNBC.
I mean, it definitely crosses a gray line between corporate media and these grift packs, where it's like, at some point, this is like an in-kind contribution to the Lincoln Project.
Seriously.
Well, that is exactly right. It's not just an in-kind contribution. I mean, with the way modern campaigns are financed and structured, and Democrats are ahead of Republicans, frankly, on this, is through small dollar contributions that are commonly given during consumption of media, right? And in this case, MSNBC, you wonder why it is that like Amy McGraths of the world or Harrisons of the world, all these folks were raising tens of millions of dollars for races that weren't even anywhere near competitive, is because they were being hyped by MSNBC. Well, I mean, the reason that I call the Lincoln Project the political arm of MSNBC is precisely, Duncan, what you just laid out. That's what they did. They had all of their contributors on to raise money for this outfit.
So one other thing I wanted to note here, it wasn't just national cable news and your sort of like lefty cable outfits. I mean, this was sort of pervasive in the media ecosystem for the Lincoln Project. I remember, and Holmes, you probably remember this too, but during the McConnell-Amy McGrath race, the Lincoln Project came in, with some attack ad against McConnell, one that I would say is actually pretty racist. But when they did that, the Courier-Journal also gave them space on their op-ed page. Here's why we're spending money in Kentucky. And for our listeners at home who maybe don't work in politics, I can't think of any super PAC in America, whether Senate Leadership Fund, Priorities USA, Congressional Leadership Fund, and any of these outfits who would put up 1,000 points in a DMA, put up 1,000 points in Louisville, and then go to the paper and get an op-ed written. It's just not something that's typically done. Yeah. But for the Lincoln Project, they sort of straddled this line between super PAC and media phenomenon in a way that like nobody has, and frankly shouldn't.
Yep. No, and they played it as well as they could. A very complicit media in the downfall, but that's why it's extra sweet to watch what's happened over there, because they have been taken to the woodshed, to say the least. But we do have others to check in on. Smug, I think it is the case that Neera's had an update.
Yes, she has. So we are the champions is how I would like to begin this segment. We are, in fact, the champions. We sank Neera Tanden's nomination to OMB. And as such, she has taken the L and updated her Twitter bio to reflect she is no longer a nominee to be OMB director.
Oh, well, sad. Sad.
The Minions demanded it, frankly.
They really made it happen. There's an army of support. And thank you. All credit to the Minions for making that happen. Mobilized, who just completely just decimated her hopes and dreams. Yet again, Neera has to go crawling back to Cap. It's like at the end of a Scooby-Doo or something when the villain is like, "You meddling kids, I'll be back." That's Neera Tanden.
Will she be back though? I am.
That's a great question.
I am curious, and it's something we'll obviously watch here on the Ruthless Variety
program.
Oh,
of course.
Well, but here, there's talk in the Biden administration about putting her in for a position that doesn't require Senate confirmation. And I feel like if that's the case, maybe she lays low for a while.
No, I think that was all a ploy to suggest to Republicans, you might as well just let this one go because she's going to be a part of our team no matter what. I mean, the reality is nobody wanted her.
What
Ron
she should
Klain,
do,
that's
there's
it.
a job for her, and it should be the person who runs, the White House Twitter account. It's pretty clear. She's got a knack for the medium. She should be on there just dropping her crazy takes, fighting college students at 2 a.m.
Yep.
who call her out for supporting like war and doom.
Well,
The White House Twitter account should be managed by New York Tan and telling college kids at 2 a.m. actually, trying to rob Libya for their oil is good.
There is a fear, that it's sort of like Star Wars where, Darth Vader kills Obi-Wan Kenobi and it's like, I'll become more powerful than you could ever imagine. I mean, Neera, with access to her Twitter account, again, will just be an absolute spectacle. I think if and when that does happen, we may need to do an emergency pod. We may need live analysis. We may need to go on Clubhouse and give some live takes because it will be furious. It'll be fantastic.
Duncan, you bring up an excellent point that I have two things that branch off of. Number one, if Neera returns to her form on Twitter, I think she's going to be in the running, for the liberal hack tourney, which, folks, it's on the way.
Oh yeah.
Get ready for that.
Fantastic.
Get ready for that special.
So give me a little run.
We need to address.
Yeah, give me a little run of the program there, guys. How do you want to handle the liberal hack tournament this year?
I mean, it's got to be like a Selection Sunday kind of situation. And I say we while we do the recording for the podcast, we should do like a Friday. We should just record it live for Clubhouse and the folks we have on Clubhouse get it on Friday and the folks who don't get it on the Selection Sunday.
I like that idea. As long as I can sing the
Oh yeah.
I just want to get into the mood of it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's too much, like the hype. I want to be the Clark Kellogg of this particular episode. I'm going to get a lot of deep analysis on each of the journos.
Well, I also think there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of adjustment here.
Oh yeah.
Over the perennial powerhouses that were in the tournament last year. I feel like that will be an interesting point of controversy is how the seeding works out where it was, compared to where it was last year.
And that was point number 2 that I said, because today we are going to have the King of the Hill game on today's variety program. And who knows, Neera may be a contender in the future going forward.
But the King of the Hill, you kind of need to be a former Republican.
She was essentially a neoconservative for a number of years, right? When she was telling Hillary, we need to go in and blood for oil is actually good.
Pro-war count? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, hell, if we could consider people like Bill Kristol former Republicans, it's hard to differ where Neera Tannen and Bill Kristol are.
And she was endorsed. I mean, look, Holmes, she was endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, the venerable.
That's right.
The venerable institution, a powerhouse on the right. Incredible.
Great point.
Incredible. We have a lot of new things. There's 2 more items that we need to hit here before we get to the new stuff. And they're both our scalps that we worked on. The one was the first gentleman of Teen Vogue.
Oh, let's get that update. Let's get that update on that.
Yeah. So the first gentleman of Teen Vogue is TJ Ducklow. This is
congratulations.
Yeah. So he was a scalp, if you remember, a month or so ago. But Alexi McHammond, his partner over at Axios, has since moved on to become the editor of Teen Vogue.
And congratulations.
Congratulations is in order. It's listen, I gotta tell you, if you're a parent out there, don't let your kids pick up Teen Vogue.
I mean, maybe is it too boomer of me, but I am genuinely just terrified by every single thing that I see Teen Vogue puts out, where it's ostensibly this is for teenagers, and it's just holy shit, this is just how to make your first Molotov cocktail to go to an Antifa riot. It's why is Teen Vogue giving this information out?
I don't know where it became Teen Vogue. It should be Terrorist Vogue.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it has nothing to do with Vogue. This is not an Anna Wintour kind of publication. This is basically this is why Marx was right, folks, and here's why riots are good.
Every parent's worst nightmare is contained in every month's episode, or every month's Teen Vogue.
I'm interested to see what Alexi's going to do with that as editor in chief.
It's basically the anarchist cookbook for the teen woke mob. It's really trash.
It's like if the anarchist cookbook had an Instagram.
So the last scalp on our scalp update is Cuomo, which over the weekend, the Washington Post and a couple of journos over there uncovered they were not done outing the number of women who have worked for Cuomo who've had problems with the governor's style, shall we say.
I mean, it is really something. So I saw some takes where some libs were like, folks, we should believe all women as long as there's a minimum of 3 people who come forward. And what's the count? I think we're up to 5.
Now we're 4 or 5? 5? Is it 5 homes?
5. I think we hit 5 today.
Well, certainly more. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Democratic, Senate Majority Leader in New York said, if there is one more, then it's time for him to resign.
One more, yeah.
And
then since then, I think we've gotten 2 more. Since
we got there.
Yeah, well, and the trigger was pulled. The Senate Majority Leader called on him to resign.
We hit that threshold. We broke the minimum 4, which is required for a Dem to be in trouble, and we're now 5. So
it should also be very comforting to the people in New York to know that the 5 women who have come forward with their stories vastly have outweighed the 13,000 pine boxes that the seniors have found themselves in over the last 6 months.
That's the thing, is it says so much about the media today that you have thousands upon thousands. Like we had Janice Dean, God bless her, who has been, the tip of the spear on revealing to people exactly what kind of horrific things the Cuomo regime is responsible for when it comes to enacting policies which resulted in the death of folks' parents and grandparents and loved ones in these senior centers. But that didn't get news. That didn't get news. It took, all of Cuomo's Me Too, I don't even know what you call it. Like we have some instances where he was grabbing women. Like there's a photo even of him grabbing a woman at a wedding. But that's what the media considers. Oh wait, that's too far. It wasn't that thousands upon thousands of people are dead as a result of his decisions.
And they had the evidence. He was hiding the evidence from the feds.
That's something.
Totally. So anyway, that's a scalp update. We got a couple of more. Look, we're constantly moving. We've got more that we're focused on and more that we're going to point our guns in the direction, our political guns. I don't want to be violent, certainly. I don't want anybody to get that impression. But politically speaking, we're interested in more results. And if you want results, where do you come? To the
right here. You listen to the Ruthless Variety program.
That's exactly right. So in the interest of variety, we have noticed that the Brits have taken a significant liking to the program.
Yeah, we've got I can't remember what thousand. During our weekly meeting,
many thousands.
We've got many thousands of listeners from the United Kingdom. So thank you all for listening over there. And as such, we among other takes, we're going to have a new segment today that they and all our listeners should find very interesting. What do we got, Josh?
Well, I think it's going to be a new segment because I'm very excited about this. We are introducing Hollywood Henn. And Hollywood Henn is not only a royal expert, she's also our Hollywood correspondent. I'd like to welcome to the program Amanda Henneberg.
A round of applause, folks.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the program. Very excited to be making my debut.
See, I what we'll start with here, Amanda, is that 17 million Americans on Sunday night watched Oprah's interview with Harry and Meghan. I was one of those people. I am not a royal person, but I couldn't. It's a cultural event. How am I going to miss that?
It's a cultural event. I don't even like Meghan and Harry, and I watched it.
Right. But you're also a royal expert, deeply sourced within the crown, I might add.
Yeah,
that's right.
So what's your take?
So let me just give a quick recap for the couple people that did not watch the interview or seen the coverage. But basically, so Meghan and Harry spoke with Oprah for the first time about why they decided to leave the royal family. And it was basically a 2-hour wine fest about how hard it was to be a prince and princess, if you can even imagine, and how they felt personally victimized by the media and the institution, as they call it.
I noticed that, it's the institution
and the
The
firm.
I
Yep.
kind of like the firm. That was kind of badass, if I'm
Yeah.
being quite
There's
honest.
the firm.
So I grew up, the firm was always the Grissom novel. Like I
Right?
didn't know the firm.
As a fellow boomer, when they said the firm, I was like, oh man, like the Grisham novel, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, Tom Cruise played him in the. I know what that is. But
Yeah,
no.
I only knew that because I read so much Daily Mail. So I had heard the firm before, but yeah.
And shout out to the Daily Mail who have mentioned the Ruthless Friday program twice.
Yes.
That publication.
I think we basically led them twice in the last 2 weeks.
Right?
Yes. Once you make it on Daily Mail, you've made it, I say.
That's exactly right. And so Hollywood Hen, let me ask you a couple of specific questions.
Okay.
I too found it whiny and ridiculous.
Yes.
What the hell were they trying to accomplish?
It's a great question. I think what they were trying to accomplish was to get some sympathy from everybody, but also Meghan made it clear in the very beginning that she was trying to set the record straight because she had felt so misunderstood and misrepresented by the media.
The one thing that was like just glaringly apparent though is, the first half of the interview was all Meghan and it was what it was. The second half, they drag old Harry in there.
Like a sidekick. The prince is a sidekick.
Isn't that
in an interview.
something?
Yeah.
That's very telling.
The only reason this interview is happening is the sidekick that gets in at the end and he looks so uncomfortable.
And looks unbelievably uncomfortable, almost like he's being held hostage and completely conflicted, you can tell, about being pulled in two directions between his wife and his family.
And the choice that he made, that's what really gets me is like, okay, so Oprah and Meghan Markle are like, okay, Harry, time for you to come on and tell us about how your dad and grandmother and brother are all terrible people. Please begin.
Racists, right?
Well, that's right. What did he say about or Meghan allege? What did they say is racist about the royal family?
They claim that. So this was an interesting part because Meghan's story about this and Prince Harry conflicted each other. So Meghan was talking about how when they were deciding if Archie would get a title and security protection, that people in the royal family who remained nameless made some racial questions about her kid. Would he be about his skin tone? And she basically tried to tie the Archie's race to him not being titled and protected by security. But then when Harry came on, he was talking about how those conversations had nothing to do with the title or protection, but people made racial comments about what their kids could possibly look like, but they made them when they were dating and before they got married. So
that's pretty perceptive. I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah. So that was that.
But that isn't even accurate with regard to the royal titles thing.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So the titling actually has to do with, there's a letter that they talk about that outlines who gets titles. So right now, kids of William and Kate automatically get titles. Kids of Harry and Meghan would get titles once Charles became king. But these were things that were already laid out for them. It
for
wasn't
generations, right?
Yeah, it wasn't really under discussion. So then it begs the question, did Meghan and Harry not want their kid to have they made it into something that it wasn't, seemingly, according to Daily Mail, because you can go there and see they fact checked a lot of this episode. So, or you can go see.
Doesn't she think? But look, it's a pretty tough thing if you're married to someone to suggest that you go on primetime television and call their family a bunch of racists.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What kind of wife puts their husband in a position where in front of millions of people, they're supposed to slam their family?
You know what? Here's my take. This is going to be a very controversial take. Harry, I don't know why he should just, like his brother, he got a nice wife like Kate. She seems like she's, very family oriented. Harry, I don't know what I think President Trump had a point. Best of luck to him.
Well,
I mean,
one thing I want to mention real quick is I feel like we sort of have glossed over the first, 30, 45 minutes, which was Meghan alone.
Yeah.
And there were some really stunning things in there as well. I mean, number one, like when she's doing the tour of the grounds and she said that they had rescue chickens that they rescued from a factory farm.
Are you serious?
I mean,
yes.
Which was just incredible.
Rescue chicken.
They have rescue chickens.
It's hard to feel sympathy for someone who went from a castle to Tyler Perry's mansion to now what we saw was basically a lovely home in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like your life is that's a great life in my book.
Well, and the other thing I noticed from that early part of the interview, and they were talking sort of like, the run up to the wedding was that Meghan was sort of like purposely unprepared for royal life, that she didn't do any research. Like it was like naive bordering on like arrogant.
Yes. And let me also insider fact check there too. Friends of friends who have some insiders over there.
Sources within the crown.
Sources, yeah, have relayed to me, Hollywood Henn, that those claims are completely untrue. They have royal people there that onboard Meghan and other people and are there as resources. And I don't know if she chose not to talk to those people or if she just was straight up lying. But even aside from that, if she was unclear about something in the royal family, you can also ask your husband. I mean, you also have one of the most, insider people right there. So there's no way that she could have been if she was unprepared, she was unprepared by choice. And if she was unprepared by choice, then you never should be a royal.
That's her. Yeah, that's on her.
That's on her. So that's why after I watched 2 hours of all of this, my takeaway was basically that Kate Middleton is my feminist hero, because
that's the right take.
If life is as hard in the royal bubble as they make it out to be, then Kate has done a remarkable job,
right,
maneuvering that world gracefully and as, perfectly as you can. And
that's a hot take.
That's a great take.
And lest we forget, she also has had her share of bad press. We all remember Weighty Katie and all of those tabloids. I mean, people made it out to be like, not people. Meghan and Harry made it out to be like they'd only had horrible press, and that horrible press was one of the reasons why they couldn't take their royal lives anymore. But Meghan had glowing press in the beginning, and this press ebbs and flows. Kate has had great press; she's had horrible press, and if you're a royal, it just comes with the territory, and maybe the key is not to take it so personally.
Yeah,
I would argue.
Is that a generational thing or something? Like, here's what I don't understand, right? We're in politics. We've been involved in politics a long time. There are plenty of people who've said terrible things about me on the reg. Smug's Twitter account looks like a Vietnam on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you kind of get used to taking criticism. I imagine when you're a royal, that's just on steroids all the time. And like the secret to the success of Will and Kate probably are like, I don't know, maybe don't read the Daily Mail on an hour by hour basis.
Right. And also remember when we were all growing up and people would hurt our feelings or say something at school and our parents taught us to just ignore, just ignore the bully, ignore the rumors, whatever. I feel like that didn't make its way to Meghan and Harry. It's like they internalized and read everything. And it's like, just ignore it. We all don't think that you're actually ruining lives by eating an avocado. Like you get a pass on that.
This is a good question. Is Harry and Meghan technically like Zoomers and are with William and Kate technically like millennials? Because it feels like it's a very Zoomer thing to be like, I'm the victim and I'm going to go on TV or I'm going to go on TikTok and I'm going to drag everybody, because that seems like the approach that they've decided to take.
I mean, look, the one thing I would say is she definitely has a point that at some.
Oh, here we go.
Look,
Yep,
look,
here we
look.
go.
All I'm
Wow,
going to say
Duncan.
is there's certain points in the ebb and flow that Hollywood Henn mentions where like clearly the media had set up this construct where Kate was the hero and Meghan was the villain. You know, the avocado thing you mentioned with the editorializing around the two of them eating avocados. I mean, that's a perfect example. And I guess like just sort of like in a knee-jerk way as a Republican who's experienced something similar, you know, where we're always set up as the villain, I could sort of empathize with that, right? And like I also could empathize with her like kind of being uncomfortable with how these tabloids would have relationships with, you know, the Crown and with the comms people and hosting these events and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, but these are the people who are shitting on me all day. Like, why? Like, why are you so nice to them? And her point was basically like, they're scared the media will give them bad press too. So that's all I wanted to say in her defense.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
I just feel like if you are signing up, okay, let's step back and do we all remember my favorite girlfriend of Harry's, Chelsea Davy?
No.
No. Who's Chelsea?
This is why you're the
She
Hollywood
was-
correspondent.
She was Harry's girlfriend when he was fun, right? Back in the day, and you knew that she was fun. This was like, I don't know, mid 2000s to like 2000.
Was this like Harry naked in the Las Vegas hotel room era?
I believe so. I believe so. So they had that was Harry's first real love, right? And they had that 20 somethings up and down romance breakup, you know, get back together, but it was awesome. And unfortunately, it didn't work out because she has said, you know, at the end of the day, like, I just couldn't take the royal life, you know, like that wasn't for me. The attention, everything like that. I just realized that is something like I couldn't handle. I feel like in Meghan's case, she was even older and wiser. Like if you're stepping into the royal family and you are making that choice as an adult and you know what comes with it, I just have a hard time sympathizing with you that the media was too harsh, you know, or that you couldn't handle the media. Like it's just not acceptable if you're going to step into that role. It comes with the territory.
Totally. It's complete nonsense. Let me just give you my prediction at the end of this. And I know nothing in comparison to Hollywood Henn on this stuff, but I was watching Body Language and I'm watching Harry sit there just as uncomfortable as he could possibly be as his wife was calling his family racists and everything else. There's no way this marriage doesn't end in complete disaster.
Total disaster.
This ends at some point in the next like 15, 20 years with King William, his brother, accepting Harry back in solo.
Yeah. And you know why? Because he's going to realize that Meghan gets everything she wants. She gets to go back and live the exact life that she wants and be the center of attention and, you know, get all the deals and whatever. And he has lost everything. She will have everything and he will have lost everything. And at some point, I think he is going to resent her 1,000 times over for that.
My final take, they're going to have a daughter and she's going to name it Diana because she
100%.
loves the attention.
100%. It's going to be Diana. And then maybe they'll do a photo with a newborn just like Diana did.
And apparently we're all doing final takes here. I know this is sort of, but my final take on this would basically be that, you know, basically what we're seeing is the Zoomer mentality played out in the royal family, like where people's, you know, freedom and passion and their lived experience is more important than, you know, your responsibilities and, you know, the convention that comes along with like signing up to be in the royal family and like having those obligations. And I just don't see how the next generation in the royal family will be any different than Meghan Markle. Like you know, just the way that, you know, I hate to say it, sounds so boomer, but like kids these days, like I just don't see how, you know, even kids in the royal family like opt in to the sort of responsibility of the royal family when they can be like Meghan and like get a podcast and a bunch of these deals and like being a royal will basically be like being a blue check on Twitter, you know?
This is why it's going to be key for William and Kate, because I think that they have the ability to bridge this gap between kind of old world and new world, and why it's going to be fascinating to watch to see how when it's their turn, they kind of take all of this on.
I love this. This is so good. The inaugural segment from Hollywood Henn. We thought about doing this a couple weeks ago with Spears.
Yeah,
but,
free Britney.
But we need to keep it updated because I need to know what's happening on that. So this is going to be a regular.
Yeah, there's some upcoming court dates that will be of interest on Free Britney.
I love it. Hollywood Henn, everybody.
Thanks for having me on the program, guys.
Thank you so much. Great new segment.
So before we get to the game show, which is everybody's fave, we need to eat some broccoli, unfortunately. But it's important broccoli, and it's what gets us through. And the important part is what we should be focused on. We went through the scalps at the top. Here are the scalps that we need to get. I thought we'd also include the stimulus, this COVID package that went through last week, and remind people that we are in a situation where the Republican Party, as much as the Democrats would like to write us off as sort of like adrift, are very much not. And the first example I can give you of that is this COVID package, $1.9 trillion boondoggle that passed, that all of a sudden united the Republican Party just 5 weeks in after an incredibly disappointing election to have unanimous opposition to it. I remember in 2009, I remember how difficult it was to try to unite Republicans against the Obama stimulus. We were unable to do it at that point. The Republican Party, both in the House and the Senate, was unanimously opposed to this piece of garbage legislation. I think they deserve credit for it.
Yeah. The thing is that it's incredibly partisan. I don't want to give away any of the tweets that I'm going to be using later in the King of the Hill. But just looking at where the money is actually going is very telling about the purpose of it.
Well, and we covered it, right? Like we did that new little game show segment. Smug was obsessed with having the second door option, if you may recall.
Door number 2.
Yeah, but I mean, it shouldn't be lost. And I think to Holmes's point, why we were able to keep the Republican conference together is like Republicans passed 2 COVID, bills in the Senate
90 plus votes.
Right, bipartisan bills, that got buy-in, across the ideological spectrum. And now, Biden is just selling out to the teachers union so they can extort taxpayers and parents and not open schools. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it is hopefully a good indication of things to come, as we get into some of these other pieces of legislation, which are, even worse.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the history lesson here, right? In 2009, when we'd just gotten crushed in 2 straight elections and Republicans were at 40 seats in the Senate, huge minorities in the House, we tried our very best to unite against an Obama agenda that was exceedingly liberal. And we did pretty well on the stimulus, which is the parallel to this COVID package, but we still had a couple of Republicans that vote for it. We went forward with a budget where we opposed closing down of Guantanamo. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves in late spring in the middle of a healthcare debate that eventually became Obamacare, where the real rejuvenation of the Republican Party and the energy behind a new conservative movement was formed. So for all of the liberals who are out there saying, Republicans are dead and buried, they're split between, Trump and anti-Trump, all of that's nonsense. You need to focus on what's happening right now with Republicans organizing against these very meaningful, incredibly liberal, absolutely damaging pieces of legislation. COVID package is one. I'll tell you one that's worse, and it's coming up. It's this HR 1 elections garbage.
Yeah.
We need to talk about this bill in detail because it is essentially the worst nightmare for the Republican Party. I don't say that lightly. HR 1 is an absolute nightmare. They're going to try to tell you that, oh no, this is only making everything fair for all Americans. No, folks, this is the problem. This is, how you have policies like, ballot harvesting and every single, liberal wish list item for them to make sure that they can dominate every election. It's in there.
Yeah, it's just to give you an example. Everybody who was complaining about what we were dealing with all the states changing their laws and rules as it applied to the 2020 election, this codifies that and then some. first of all, it's a federal takeover of elections. They want the federal government to fund elections, meaning the incumbents are basically an incumbent protection program. The second piece of it, which is just incredible to me, is that you can't have voter ID, right? You wouldn't want to know who your voter is, but it mandates same-day registration without an ID, by the way. So just think about how that works. Doesn't allow you to keep your voter rolls updated, so you can move to 17 different states and be on everybody's voter rolls, and there's no real way to. And you can ballot harvest nationwide, so you don't have to actually check people's ID, but you can show up and register 17 people in an apartment complex, give them the ballot, have them vote, and walk out. I mean, that is voter fraud. I mean, all the nonsense that we were talking about bags of ballots and stuff that were never proven, like that's like the mother lode of crime, which, as far as I've seen, there's no evidence of. But this is structured, institutionalized, legalized stealing of votes. And that's what they are trying to do. If you have any interest in trying to have a conservative movement that's at all competitive, zone in on this. We're going to spend a lot of time on the Variety program talking about HR1, because it literally is the difference between us being able to compete in elections in the future and not.
Yeah. And one other thing I would point out, and we've mentioned this previously on the podcast, but I think this HR1, under the guise of being an election reform bill, is the best pathway for the Democrats and their liberal paymasters to get rid of the filibuster. And that, they're going to call this the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or whatever. And they're going to launch a big PR campaign around this legislation and basically say, if you don't want to vote for this, then you're a racist. And if you're a racist, then, your opinion doesn't matter. And if your opinion doesn't matter, then why should we have a filibuster in the first place? So, we need to preempt that with all the sort of stuff that Holmes just discussed about what's in the legislation, because it would codify things like ballot harvesting. It would federalize our elections, which elections are state run for a reason, guys. Like, we live in a democracy that respects states' rights, and the states are supposed to administer their elections. Like, that's the way it's supposed to go. I mean, like, you want more federal involvement in the elections? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Also, I want to fact check, Duncan. We live in a republic. Not a democracy.
Yeah. Well, this isn't a Federalist Papers podcast. We all know
very clear.
United
about that.
States of America.
We led our listeners to believe there would be no Federalist Papers here.
Who would have thought that Smug would be the guy to be?
We have to. Hey, man.
This is the guy who's not supposed to be reading.
Guy doesn't even read, but he's giving us the Republic.
I remember, it's to the Republic. You have to know the Pledge of Allegiance, folks. The point stands. Nationalizing elections is an insane maneuver. It makes zero sense, but Duncan is 100% on target. They're going to try to say, if you oppose this, you're racist. They're going to try to get rid of the filibuster for this. And HR1, everyone needs to be tuned in on this. This is going to be a huge deal, and we need to fight it tooth and nail.
And the difference between Ruthless and a lot of other conservative outlets is that we're not going to sit there and wait till we lose.
Yep.
And show you the reasons why, right? We have no time for that bullshit. We're going to go out and try to win. And in order to win, you all need to be focused on HR1.
HR1 should be the only focus. We have to have everybody in on this, because it's going to be an absolute battle. Their side is going to spend so much money. They're going to say everyone who opposes us is a racist. They're going to say the craziest things. They're going to be like, filibuster is a Jim Crow law. Like, they're going to come out with all the moron
my favorite part
takes.
about that is the Jim Crow. They'll say it's a relic of Jim Crow, which is what Obama used, and they used the relic of Jim Crow to filibuster Tim Scott's police reform bill.
Yeah, black Republican, right?
I mean, what a bunch of absolute clowns, just clowns. But anyway, so we're going to stay on this. I actually got a call today from a very powerful Republican senator wishing to come on the program and outline very specifically why we should all be paying attention to this. So look for that in the next couple weeks.
Great plug. And now that you folks, we've served up the broccoli, it's time. The people cry out for King of the Hill.
Oh, the dessert.
This is so good. It's so good. It's become the fan favorite, really, of all the games. We've had a lot of really good games. This one is the fan favorite, though.
And for good reason, man. I mean, the takes that the takes that are out there, and the thing is that it's shifting. You know, like who would have thought Matthew Dowd was just like a top tier contender?
He's ascendant. He's really ascendant. And I mean, we also talked about the liberal hack tournament and doing a live draw here on Friday or over the course of the weekend or whatever. You know, it's sort of similar to that. It's like people have these moments where they get really hot, you know, and if you look back at the liberal hack tournament, you probably reseed it differently now. Who would have thought that Matthew Dowd would be, you know, really a number one seed contender?
Dowd is like Duke Final Four status right now. The dude is just dropping them. Like
I was a 3-time King of the Hill champion. I mean,
I'm stunned. Like I never expected he had it in him. The first time I picked him, you know, to champion the brainworm takes. But since then, you know, I feel like the show being crowned King of the Hill has just inspired him to get on Twitter. It's like a Rocky montage, you know, like he's just like
he gets up. He has the eggs. It's the raw eggs for breakfast.
He's downing like 10 eggs in the morning. He hits the gym. Then he pulls out the phone and he's like, these takes got to be nuclear. Like we're unleashing all the brainworms. And since then, like, I mean, he beat Jen Rubin, folks. That alone shall let you know how serious he is. But he has continued to. He had a mental breakdown like the last weekend, a week ago, you know, seeing the minions in his replies, constantly tagging me and Josh of like this take is something else.
It's like the Rocky where he was facing Drago. And he's doing the montage. And at the end, he's standing on the top of the mountain and he's like, Ruthless.
That's it, dude. That's exactly it. and over the past week, his takes have been incredible.
Well,
so ready.
Hold on, just to set the table here for our listeners who may not be familiar with this segment. I just want to lay around the ground rules here for King of the Hill, which is that Smug and Holmes both get 3 tweets from their champion for the week. Matthew Dowd is the reigning champion, I believe a 3-time champion. And, you know, Holmes has to bring, I'm sorry, wait, Holmes, do you have Dowd?
No.
I have Dowd.
Okay.
So Smug
I had Dowd.
Smug has Dowd. Holmes has to bring a challenger, 3 tweets from the challenger. And then I serve as judge and jury. And they go tweet against tweet. And, you know, we score the rounds. And the winner is King of the Hill.
Important rule update. When you are defeated, you have to take a week off. You can't immediately come back.
Well, yeah, you're battered and bruised. You're battered and bruised. You know, you need to get healthy. Yeah.
Was defeated last week and will be taking the week off. I have a new selection, a newcomer to the program.
Ooh.
Let's go ringside.
Yeah, let's get those intros.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. And now, in the red corner, fighting out of Pierre Omadiah's checkbook, standing 5 feet 5 inches tall, an elderly former conservative who personally wrote Sarah Palin's name on the Republican presidential ticket. Cruising Bill Crystal.
I mean, this is so good.
What a treat.
Wow.
So good.
What a challenger. That's a great pick, Holmes.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty excited about it. You know, I mean, look, this guy's lost his mind. And I think any given week, anything can happen. Now, like we said, we didn't know that Dowd would be a 3-time champion, taking out Ruben twice and Navarro once. I mean, that, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's a heavy hitter. Bringing in Crystal, I know you mean business.
But if anybody can do it, it's this geriatric.
And, the man needs no introduction, but can we go ringside and welcome the reigning champion?
And now, in the blue corner, your reigning champion, fighting out of his own Twitter account, standing 5 feet 7 inches tall, a 3-time king of the hill, Matthew Male Pattern Dowd!
I mean, man, the man who cucked Arnold Schwarzenegger himself.
I love this. I love this segment because it's a complete surprise to me. That's the thing is Holmes and Smug procure these artisanal tweets, and they're read live here on the pod. I haven't read any of these, so it's like you're getting the unvarnished take from me, your judge and jury.
So who starts on this one? Is it he? Does he start?
Is it champion or is it challenger? I can never remember.
I think it's champion.
It's champion. Yeah. You have to go twice. You go first the first round and first the third round.
Okay.
All right, Smug, what do you got?
Let's see. See, the winning tweet for Dowd was the one for folks who didn't listen to the previous showdown. He won on the retweet if you agree. It's the meta game of Twitter. It was so boomer.
Well, there are many aspects to an appropriate selecting a tweet because you got to read the judge and the jury.
Yeah. So Dowd is a champion of the brainwormness of the meta game of Twitter. And on March 2nd, Matthew Dowd drops, I love how people bring up tweets from a year ago as if we don't gather more information, that things change. New data is available, and therefore our thoughts adapt. Lordy.
I like that.
It's
He's like, why do I need to have any kind of consistency in my thought? The brainworms continue eating.
What's the funny thing about that particular one is that it's because of the nature of King of the Hill and being former Republicans gone lib. It's pretty good.
It's really something. He gives himself an excuse of like why I have no core and whatever will get me on TV. Because now he lost his like ABC contract, apparently.
Yeah.
Many people saying, the reason out there. If you know, folks, hit that tip line. It's mysterious.
Okay. So what I'm trying to figure out is whether I stick with the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing. And that's, for our listeners, that's sort of the subtext here to the game that makes the strategy is like, once a tweet has been deployed into King of the Hill, like you might have to augment your strategy.
Yeah, because I have a tweet here that fits the genre of a mind that has been wormed and changed fundamentally. But I also have two other real. Okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. Governor Abbott is going to be responsible for more avoidable COVID hospitalizations and deaths than all the undocumented immigrants coming across the Texas border put together. I mean, it's red fucking hot. It's red hot. I mean, I had to lead with it. It's just nuclear.
This is tough. This is a tough one for the judge and jury because they're sort of different.
They are.
Well, I wanted to see because if I lose this with that, then I know that I can come back to my genre and feel pretty confident with it.
What I respect about that tweet from Crystal is like the guy just like powers right through any sort of like information or data or statistics to support it, and it's just like fucking send tweet.
It's so nuclear. It's incredible.
You know,
Man.
the thing I really liked about Dowd's tweet, though, is it is sort of like your perfect and quintessential, like whenever people say whataboutism or whatever, the media and the blue checks really hate when you call them out for being inconsistent, because it is all performative theater and it's all kayfabe.
Totally.
Where they're outraged by things when a Republican does it, and they're not outraged when Democrats do it, yada, 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 yada. And so it's sort of like, Dowd's, he sort of said the quiet part loud, which is, we expect you to be consistent when you have a take a year later. So I respect that. Okay, I think I've made my decision, though. Dowd was good, but you just cannot top that Crystal hot fire.
I have to admit, it's a very fair decision by the judge. That was hot fire.
I had to bring fire.
Well, yeah, and that's another one of the strategies, right? It's like you're going against the champ,
the king.
You gotta punch him in the nose. You gotta make him bleed a little.
He's got to respect you
in the first round, and so he's got to respect your jab.
Yeah, I respect, and that's the truth. I thought this was going to be just a straight up steamroll, but hey, Dowd is a deep well when it comes to the takes. I'm ready to roll.
So Holmes has won. He won round one, and now he has to go first for round two.
Okay. Bill Crystal, just yesterday. For what it's worth, Biden can frame the $1.9 trillion package as both strengthening the safety net and a springboard to a new economic activity as part of an overall agenda designed to foster both security, opportunity, equality, upward mobility, compassion, and innovation. A new liberalism?
Oh, I got this.
The key to it. A new liberalism?
Get ready for this take.
It's the key. It's like you name 100 different virtues, and he's like, "Oh, but it's new because I'm on board now, so it's new." The same. By the way, he just eviscerated the Obama stimulus, which is like 1,000 times better than this dog.
Well, look, I'm not going to comment as judge and jury. I will remain impartial during this point in round two.
I needed to advocate.
Here's Matthew Dowd on March 3rd, talking about Cuomo. Quote, every misdeed of a politician doesn't mandate the political death penalty of resigning. One can hold someone accountable and not insist on resignation. Punishment should depend upon misdeed. I said same during Al Franken. I wish, the tens of thousands of people who died because of Cuomo could have a take.
Particularly given this guy's personal experience. You can see why you'd want to be a little differential.
Ooh.
Should I repeat that one? Because it's a great take. I'd love to read it again.
Why don't you do that? The judge and jury is gonna do a little research on his own. I think key to determining the winner in this round is I'm gonna need some supportive evidence. So why don't you go ahead and read it again while I look that up?
Here we go. Matthew Dowd, March 3rd. Every misdeed of a politician doesn't mandate the political death penalty of resigning. One can hold someone accountable and not insist on resignation. Punishment should depend upon misdeed. I said same during Al Franken situation.
So the question is, did he during the Al Franken situation?
Well, I'm not looking at that so much as I'm looking at what he said during Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh,
here's Matthew Dowd. Let's presume she's telling the truth. Weird. Seems like a different standard.
Wow.
We're all for due process when it's a Democrat. Yeah. Crystal's take is really good too.
New liberalism.
Well, see, what I love about that is it's sort of this fig leaf, right? Like, because he's supposed to be the principled conservative.
Yeah.
Who's more conservative than any of us. He's the one really fighting for the future of the conservative movement. So he spends 98% of his tweet cheerleading for a new era of big government, and then ends it with a question.
Here's the thing is,
it's like, it's not like he's saying those things are good. He's saying those things are facts. Is this the new era? It's just like,
the beauty of Dowd is he knows he's a complete hypocrite. Like, you called him out on Kavanaugh. Hence the first tweet where he's like, guys, I can have any opinion I want. Don't bring up my old tweets. That's how fucking brain worms he is. At this point, he's like, I'm just going to demand whatever I want. There has to be no reason to it.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Come on, Crystal, put him away.
Crystal's tweet is fantastic, but the duplicity of Dowd here takes the day, and so the score is 1-1.
We go to the third round.
Okay,
bringing out the big guns.
Okay,
I got a doozy too, folks. Dowd's ready for round 3.
All right, you lead with it, pal.
March 2nd, Matthew Dowd. Just because GOP in Congress won't support COVID bill doesn't make it partisan. It means GOP isn't doing what citizens want. 2/3 of country supports this package, Democrats and independents and Republicans.
So
just because Republicans don't support it doesn't mean it's not bipartisan, folks. That's a take. Listen, only Democrats voted for it, so it's bipartisan. Matthew Dowd.
It is a brainworms take. But it is like the DNC press secretary take, right?
I mean, so officially, only Democrats voting for a bill is bipartisan. Good work, Matthew Dowd. What a take. Just because Republicans didn't vote for it doesn't mean it's not bipartisan, folks.
I mean, it's good. It's good. I think I've got him.
Wow.
Bill Kristol, March 6th, 9:18 a.m. You did not like Trump and his scam? I did not. Never Trump I am. I could not vote for him. I tried to help Joe Biden win. Now it's better. It's pretty good in America's neighborhoods. What of Trump? Wither GOP? For now, from his party, let me be free.
Wow.
The guy went Dr. Seuss. He went Dr. Seuss. In implicit defense of the canceling of Dr. Seuss.
I like how he had to make the rhyme work. So he said, that's pretty good. He said it's pretty good under Joe Biden.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Now it's better. It's pretty good in America's neighborhoods.
Smug, I'm going to have you read yours again.
Absolutely. March 2nd, Matthew Dowd. Just because GOP in Congress won't support COVID bill doesn't make it partisan. It means GOP isn't doing what citizens want. 2/3 of country supports this package. Democrats and independents and Republicans. Hey, just because the GOP didn't vote for the bill, only Dems did, doesn't mean it's partisan. Democrats only equals bipartisan. Good work, Matthew Dowd.
These are, as often comes before the judge and jury. We have 2 final tweets, very divergent.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to test this particular judge and jury on creativity of the brainworm.
Wow.
So there is.
I have my faith in the judge and jury. This is no test. I have full faith in their decision making.
Well, there's precedent being set here, Smug.
Well, look. Let me speak to each tweet's strength. With Dowd, we have basically, stenographer work from, the the DSCC, the DCCC, and the DNC. Right? I mean, I don't know. You could poll any bill and find opposite party support for said piece of legislation and claim it's bipartisan, regardless of who supports it in Congress, right? So like, it's on its face a ridiculous argument to make. You didn't get a single Republican vote. So there's that, right? Kind of a beltway argument, though. Crystal's take synthesizes so much of the very online crowd. Just the cringe. It synthesizes cringe content. It synthesizes culture war with Seuss. And it's just so incredibly pathetic in how he's such a lapdog for the Democratic establishment while claiming to be a Republican. I got to give it to Crystal. That's a knockout.
Oh, the king is fallen.
That was a hell of a tweet from Crystal. That was a battle. I will say that was a battle.
I gotta tell you, I put some serious time into finding these tweets because the last two, Dow just blew my girl out of the water.
I mean, Dowd is strong. I mean, I'm gonna push to have him get him a very low seed.
He could be back in 2 weeks on King of the Hill.
Well, so there was a time when Jen Rubin was so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Where there was discussions internally within Ruthless. There's discussions like, do we hang the jersey from the rafters?
Yeah.
Like, can anyone compete with Jen Rubin and her brainworms? And I'm heartened to see so many other contenders out there.
Yeah.
I think the truth is that these folks are listening to Ruthless, and it's just emboldening them to drop these crazier and crazier takes. And hats off to Bill Crystal. He brought it, and you have to bring it every week to stay King of the Hill.
That's exactly right. I love it. Let's get Moderate Jeff to play us out of here. All right, Smug, just for the Ruthless Variety Program listener, they should be aware that this is going to be a big week in terms of our interview on Thursday. We are going to be bringing big content for that particular episode, but then we are also in preliminary planning stages to release the Hack Tournament bracket.
It's going to be incredible. I have a feeling we're going to get so much engagement on this year's Liberal Hack Tourney. There's so many contenders, folks. There's so many contenders. We're gonna have 65 in the selection Sunday. I'm gonna push. I think we should do the live clubhouse naming the 65. It's gonna be huge, and the interviews that we have in the books. I mean, it's gonna be mind blowing. I can't give them away now, folks.
So I like that. I like that doing a live clubhouse of the selections like on Friday, and then we'll release it over the weekend, selection Sunday sort of thing, special episode.
Awesome.
It's great.
Cannot wait.
Smug, play us out of here, pal.
Another great episode in the books, gentlemen. Outstanding work, everybody. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.